Picture this. You have spent decades building the world's most luxurious travel destination, attracting millions of Western tourists with promises of endless opulence. But right now, as I am recording this, industry insiders are quietly admitting something that should terrify every hotel executive in Dubai. Western travelers are not just staying away, they are actively choosing competitors, and the numbers are absolutely devastating. 1 minute ago, a bombshell report dropped revealing how Dubai's own strategy to chase ultra-wealthy clients has backfired spectacularly, leaving empty hotel lobbies where crowds once thrived. In this video, I will expose exactly how Dubai's tourism machine is crumbling from within, why Western markets are abandoning the city that once seemed unstoppable, and the shocking travel pattern shifts that industry executives hoped you would never discover. But here is the question that should keep every Dubai tourism official awake at night. When the city that built its empire on Western tourist dollars suddenly finds those tourists fleeing to cheaper alternatives, how long before the entire house of cards comes crashing down? Let's start with what's really happening on the ground. Dubai spent the last 3 decades meticulously crafting its image as the ultimate playground for Western luxury travelers. This was not just marketing, it was their entire economic strategy. Europeans and Americans have historically made up approximately 40% of all Dubai's visitors. And these were not just any tourists. They were big spenders, dropping billions annually on premium hotels, luxury shopping, and exclusive experiences. These Western visitors were Dubai's golden goose, the ones booking hotel suites at $1,000 per night, spending afternoons in designer stores, and spending thousands on helicopter tours and desert experiences. The entire city was architected around their preferences, their desires, and most importantly, their wallets. But something alarming is happening right now that Dubai's tourism officials do not want you to know. According to confidential tourism data that recently surfaced, Western visitor numbers have absolutely plummeted. They are down a staggering 25% in 2025 compared to previous years. This is not just a small fluctuation or temporary dip. We are witnessing a fundamental shift in travel patterns that is sending shockwaves through Dubai's entire economic ecosystem. The evidence is becoming impossible to hide. Major airlines have canceled over 30% of their routes from Western cities to Dubai in the past 6 months alone. British Airways has reduced its London to Dubai service from 5 daily flights to just 3. Lufthansa has cut Frankfurt to Dubai connections by 40%. American carriers have been even more aggressive in their retreat, with United Airlines eliminating direct Chicago to Dubai service entirely. Perhaps most telling is what is happening with travel agencies. Companies that once prominently featured Dubai packages on their homepage are quietly removing these offerings or pushing them to the back pages of their catalogs. When I spoke confidentially with executives at 3 major European travel companies, they all delivered the same message that Western demand for Dubai has fallen. Why is this happening now? The economic uncertainty gripping Western countries and rising cost of living pressures have made Dubai's extreme luxury pricing model completely unsustainable. Western families that might have splurged on Dubai 5 years ago are now making very different choices. A comprehensive analysis of travel costs reveals that a 1-week family vacation in Dubai now costs approximately 60% more than comparable luxury experiences in emerging destinations like Vietnam, Malaysia, or even parts of Southern Europe. The numbers become even more alarming when you look forward. Industry forecasts that have not been publicly released predict Western tourism to Dubai could drop another 40% by 2026. If these projections hold true, Dubai will have effectively lost its most profitable visitor segment within just a few years. We are not talking about a correction. We are talking about a collapse. Tourism executives are now scrambling behind closed doors, holding emergency strategy sessions and desperately trying to reverse these trends before it is too late. But here is what they are not admitting publicly. The foundation of Dubai's tourism empire, Western luxury travel, has already begun to crack, and they have no clear plan to fix it. Dubai's tourism leadership did not completely ignore these warning signs. In fact, they developed what seemed like a logical contingency plan, a pivot to Asian markets. Their strategy was straightforward, and as Western tourists retreat, they would simply replace them with the rapidly growing traveler bases from China, India, South Korea, and Southeast Asia. On paper, this made perfect sense. Asia represents the fastest growing outbound tourism market globally. China alone sent 155 million travelers abroad in the last recorded year before the pandemic. India's outbound tourism was growing at over 10% annually. The numbers seem to support Dubai's pivot strategy perfectly. But here's what Dubai's tourism planners critically miscalculated. Asian tourists simply aren't Western tourists with different passports. They have fundamentally different expectations, spending patterns, cultural preferences, and perhaps most importantly, budget parameters than the Western luxury market. Dubai's entire infrastructure was built to serve. This mismatch is creating significant operational challenges across Dubai's tourism ecosystem. Luxury hotels designed with Western preferences in mind are struggling to adapt to Asian guest expectations. Staff trained to cater to European and American cultural norms find themselves unprepared for different communication styles, dining preferences, and service expectations. Even simple things like language capabilities have become major hurdles. Most of Dubai's hospitality workforce was hired and trained to serve English-speaking Western guests. Now, hotels are scrambling to find staff who speak Mandarin, Hindi, Korean, and other Asian languages, often without success. Some five-star properties report that more than 70% of their guest-facing staff cannot effectively communicate with their new primary customer base. The amenity mismatch is equally problematic. Hotels that invested millions in facilities Western guests valued, expansive spa facilities, extensive wine lists, and pork-serving restaurants, find these investments largely irrelevant to many Asian travelers, particularly those from China and India, who often prioritize different amenities entirely. The infrastructure gap is costing properties millions in wasted operational expenses and missed revenue opportunities. The economic impact of this market mismatch is becoming increasingly apparent. Industry data shows that despite aggressive marketing to Asian countries and increased visitor numbers from these regions, revenue per guest has dropped by approximately 35%. Simply put, Asian tourists do not spend like Western luxury travelers, and Dubai's entire pricing model was built around Western wallets. One luxury hotel manager, speaking on condition of anonymity, put it bluntly, "We're filling rooms, but we're hemorrhaging money. Asian guests book our cheapest rooms, do not use our restaurants, and spend little on in-house services. Our occupancy numbers look good on paper, but our revenue has collapsed." Dubai's replacement strategy is failing for a fundamental reason. You cannot simply swap one market for another without completely transforming your operation. The city built its infrastructure, trained its workforce, and established its pricing around serving wealthy Western tourists. Pivoting to a completely different demographic requires more than new marketing campaigns. It requires rebuilding Dubai's entire tourism approach from the ground up. This market mismatch leads us directly to what might be Dubai's biggest tourism crisis: the complete collapse of its spending model. To understand why this matters so profoundly, we need to examine how Dubai's tourism economy was designed to function. Dubai's entire economic model was built on a specific type of visitor, the high-spending Western luxury traveler. These were not just tourists, they were economic fuel injected directly into Dubai's economy. The average Western visitor to Dubai historically spent approximately $2,500 per trip, excluding airfare. This spending was concentrated in key areas: luxury accommodations, high-end dining, premium shopping, and exclusive experiences. The math worked beautifully. Attract fewer tourists who spend more, rather than more tourists who spend less. This approach allowed Dubai to build extraordinary infrastructure while maintaining exclusivity. It is why the city could justify constructing the world's tallest building, artificial islands, and indoor ski slopes. These attractions were not meant to appeal to budget travelers. But the new visitor demographics have shattered this economic model. Today's Dubai tourists increasingly prefer cultural experiences over luxury shopping, mid-range accommodations over premium suites, and family-friendly activities over exclusive adult-oriented entertainment. Most critically, they are spending approximately 50% less per person than traditional Western tourists. This spending gap is creating economic chaos throughout Dubai's tourism ecosystem. Luxury malls that once thrived on Western shoppers, dropping thousands on designer goods, now report declining sales despite increasing foot traffic. The Dubai Mall, once the crown jewel of luxury retail and the world's most visited shopping destination, has seen a particularly troubling trend. Visitor numbers are up nearly 15%, but actual sales have dropped by over 20%. High-end restaurants are experiencing similar disruption. Establishments that once had month-long waiting lists now sit half-empty, forcing layoffs and menu revisions. One restaurant consultant working with multiple Dubai venues said they were seeing a complete collapse in wine sales and premium menu items. People are coming in, but they are ordering appetizers and water instead of steaks and champagne. Premium hotel suites that once commanded $2,000 plus per night are increasingly sitting empty, while budget properties struggle with overcrowding. This has created a bizarre market distortion where luxury properties are quietly slashing rates to fill rooms, while simultaneously trying to maintain the appearance of exclusivity. The spending disconnect extends beyond accommodation and dining. Dubai's experience economy, built around premium activities like helicopter tours, luxury desert safaris, and exclusive yacht charters, is seeing bookings decline by up to 40%. One tour operator specializing in luxury experiences said they used to run exclusive desert safaris for $500 per person. Now they are lucky if visitors will pay $100. And even then, they negotiate hard on price. This fundamental economic mismatch is creating a tourism infrastructure crisis. Dubai built a luxury ecosystem for big spenders, but is increasingly attracting budget-conscious travelers who cannot sustain the economic model the city was built on. It is like building an entire city of Michelin star restaurants, and then wondering why fast food customers are not spending enough to keep the lights on. Dubai's tourism crisis extends far beyond visitor numbers and spending patterns. It is triggering a potential collapse in the city's real estate market, one of the pillars of Dubai's economic miracle. To understand why, we need to examine the critical relationship between Western tourism and Dubai's property market. For decades, Western investors poured billions into Dubai real estate, purchasing vacation properties, retirement homes, and short-term rental units. This massive inflow of Western capital drove property values to extraordinary heights and created one of the world's most dynamic real estate markets. At its peak, Western investors accounted for approximately 40% of all Dubai property purchases. These were not just any property buyers. They were premium purchasers, often paying cash for luxury units and oceanfront villas. The average Western real estate investor in Dubai spent 30% more per square foot than buyers from other regions. This reliable stream of Western capital helped fuel Dubai's construction boom and property appreciation. But that stream has now slowed to a trickle. Recent data shows Western investment in Dubai real estate has plummeted by approximately 45% as investors pull out of the market or redirect their capital to other global destinations. Properties that would have sold within days just a few years ago are now sitting on the market for months, even with significant price reductions. The evidence of this retreat is becoming increasingly visible. Drive through Dubai Marina or Palm Jumeirah, areas once dominated by Western investors, and you will notice something troubling. For sale signs are multiplying. Real estate agencies specializing in Western clients report listing inventories up 300%, while transaction volumes have collapsed. While Asian and Russian buyers are stepping into some of this void, they are doing so on very different terms. These new investors are typically paying 30 to 40% less than Western investors were willing to pay at market peak. This pricing gap is creating significant downward pressure on Dubai's property values across all segments. The market correction is accelerating faster than most analysts predicted. Real estate experts working within Dubai's largest property firms, but unwilling to go on record publicly, predict a market correction of up to 50% in certain segments as Western money continues fleeing Dubai's property sector. Some high-end developments that sold units for $1,500 per square foot in 2022 are now seeing comparable units trade for under $800 per square foot. This real estate contraction creates a dangerous feedback loop for Dubai's tourism sector. As property values fall, Western investors who still own Dubai properties have less incentive to visit. Rental yields decline as tourism shifts to lower-spending visitors, further discouraging Western investment. The luxury short-term rental market, once a reliable revenue generator for Western property owners, has seen rates drop by approximately 35%. The implications extend beyond individual property owners. Dubai's construction sector, which accounts for approximately 8% of the Emirates' GDP, faces severe contraction as Western-focused luxury developments become economically unfeasible. Several high-profile projects targeting Western buyers have been quietly placed on hold in recent months. Corporate speak for canceled. The real estate bubble built on Western investment expectations is deflating, and new buyers simply cannot fill the financial gap left by retreating Western capital. As one Dubai-based property analyst told me off the record, we are witnessing the end of Dubai's Western-fueled real estate boom. The market is not just correcting, it is fundamentally restructuring for a post-Western future. Perhaps the clearest indicator of Dubai's Western tourism collapse can be found in the strategic decisions being made by the airlines that have long served as the city's lifelines to global markets. Emirates and Fly Dubai, Dubai's flagship carriers, built their entire route networks and business models around connecting Dubai to major Western cities. London, New York, Paris, Frankfurt, Toronto were not just destinations. They were the critical arteries, pumping Western tourists into Dubai's economic heart. These Western routes were not just important, they were disproportionately profitable. Western travelers typically booked premium cabins, paid higher fares, and generated significantly more ancillary revenue than passengers from other regions. A business-class seat from London to Dubai could generate 5 to 6 times the profit of an economy seat from Manila or Mumbai. But the route maps are being redrawn as we speak. Airlines are quietly but systematically reducing capacity to Western destinations, while adding flights to Asian markets. Emirates has cut frequency to several key Western cities, including Los Angeles, Boston, and Munich. Meanwhile, the airline has increased service to Beijing, Shanghai, Bangkok, and Manila. The message could not be clearer. Western demand is declining, and airlines are reallocating their assets accordingly. This reduction in Western air capacity creates a dangerous downward spiral for Dubai tourism. Fewer available seats means fewer potential Western visitors can reach Dubai, even if they wanted to. Reduced competition on remaining routes drives up prices, further discouraging Western travel. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of decline. Fewer flights lead to fewer visitors, which leads to even fewer flights. The data paints a troubling picture. An analysis of flight capacity changes shows Emirates and partner airlines have reduced seat capacity to Western destinations by approximately 22% over the past 18 months. During the same period, they have increased capacity to Asian destinations by approximately 35%. When an airline votes with its aircraft, you know where the market is heading. Perhaps most concerning are the long-term fleet and route planning decisions being made behind closed doors. Industry sources with knowledge of Emirates' planning process reveal the airline may cut up to 40% of its Western routes by 2026, effectively isolating Dubai from significant portions of its traditional tourist base. Aircraft previously dedicated to Western routes are being reconfigured for different markets, with premium cabins shrinking and economy sections expanding, a physical manifestation of Dubai's market shift. The airline pivot extends beyond just Emirates and Fly Dubai. Western carriers that once competed aggressively for Dubai routes are retreating. Delta discontinued its Atlanta to Dubai service years ago. United no longer serves Dubai directly from any U.S. city. European carriers are reducing frequency and downgrading aircraft size on Dubai routes. This airline abandonment represents more than just operational adjustments. It signals a fundamental reevaluation of Dubai's position in the global tourism market. When your national airline, the very carrier that helped build your destination's global reputation, begins systematically reducing its commitment to Western markets, you know the tourism crisis is deeper and more structural than anyone wants to publicly admit. One of the most telling indicators of Dubai's tourism panic can be found in its rapidly evolving visa policies. For decades, Dubai maintained relatively strict visa requirements, particularly for visitors from developing nations. The message was clear. Dubai was an exclusive destination, and the barriers to entry were part of its appeal to Western luxury travelers who were willing to navigate bureaucracy for exceptional experiences. This approach worked well when Dubai could count on a steady stream of high-spending Western tourists. But as that stream dries up, Dubai's visa strategy has undergone a dramatic and revealing transformation. The Emirate is now desperately simplifying visa requirements for non-Western countries, creating new visa categories, and eliminating barriers that once maintained Dubai's exclusive image. The changes are happening at breakneck speed. In just the past 18 months, Dubai has introduced simplified visa processes for visitors from India, Pakistan, and several African nations, markets that were previously subjected to extensive documentation requirements and lengthy approval processes. The 5-year multiple entry visa, once reserved for business travelers and property owners, has been extended to a much broader range of visitors. Perhaps most telling is the introduction of new visa categories, specifically designed to attract long-term visitors who are not traditional tourists. The digital nomad visa, remote work visa, and retirement visa all represent attempts to fill Dubai's hotels and restaurants with new categories of visitors as traditional Western tourism declines. Dubai is even experimenting with visa-free entry for certain nationalities during traditionally slow periods, a concept that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago when maintaining exclusivity was paramount. These desperate policy adjustments signal something profound. Dubai has abandoned its strategy of selective access in favor of volume at any cost. Industry insiders recognize these policy shifts for what they truly are: panic moves. When a luxury destination starts giving away easy access, it means demand has fundamentally collapsed. One immigration consultant who works with Gulf governments put it bluntly: Dubai is throwing open the doors because they need warm bodies in hotel rooms, regardless of how much those visitors actually spend. Perhaps most revealing are the private admissions from tourism officials who now speak of recalibrating expectations for Western markets, corporate euphemism for giving up on their core audience. In closed-door industry meetings, Dubai tourism leaders no longer talk about Western recovery strategies. Instead, they focus entirely on developing new markets and accepting the permanent loss of Western luxury travelers. These visa policy changes create their own complications. Security agencies must now process visitors from a wider range of countries with different risk profiles. Immigration infrastructure built to handle primarily Western and Gulf travelers must adapt to more diverse visitor demographics. The entire arrival experience, once streamlined for Western travelers, now faces congestion and delays as staff process visitors from countries with more complex documentation requirements. Dubai's visa desperation reveals the true depth of its tourism crisis. When a destination that built its reputation on exclusivity and selective access suddenly embraces an open-door policy, it signals fundamental market failure. The message could not be clearer. Dubai desperately needs tourists, any tourists, to fill the void left by Western abandonment. Dubai's tourism collapse has triggered something even more profound than economic challenges: a full-blown identity crisis. For 3 decades, Dubai invested billions in building its global brand as the Western luxury hub of the Middle East. Every marketing campaign, every infrastructure project, every cultural initiative was designed with Western tastes and preferences in mind. This was not just marketing. It was Dubai's entire reason for being. The city's modern identity was built around being a Western-friendly oasis of luxury in the Middle East. Architectural decisions, entertainment options, alcohol policies, dress codes, and business practices were all calibrated specifically for Western comfort and consumption. Now Dubai finds itself in an impossible position. Its core market is vanishing, forcing a fundamental reconsideration of what Dubai actually is. Tourism officials are hastily attempting to rebrand Dubai as a global multicultural destination rather than a Western playground. Marketing that once prominently featured Western visitors in luxury settings now showcases greater diversity. But you cannot change a city's DNA overnight. The infrastructure, staff training, cultural offerings, and the entire tourism ecosystem remain misaligned with new target markets. Hotels designed around Western aesthetic preferences can feel foreign to Asian visitors. Entertainment options calibrated for Western tastes do not necessarily resonate with travelers from other cultures. This identity crisis extends beyond marketing to the physical fabric of Dubai itself. The city built massive shopping malls filled with Western luxury brands that new visitor demographics either cannot afford or do not value. It constructed entertainment venues around Western musical acts and performers that hold little appeal for many non-Western visitors. It developed dining scenes centered on Western celebrity chefs and cuisines, rather than options that might appeal to Asian or Middle Eastern travelers. Even Dubai's famous beach clubs and pool scenes, designed with Western attitudes toward public attire in mind, create cultural disconnects for visitors from more conservative societies. One pool manager at a 5-star hotel told me, "Our entire pool concept was built around Western guests who want to sunbathe in minimal swimwear. Now we have guests from cultures where that is completely inappropriate, creating impossible operational challenges." Tourism experts warn that Dubai risks becoming nothing to everyone as it abandons its Western luxury identity without successfully establishing a new one. In trying to appeal to everyone, the city may end up appealing to no one. The luxury travelers it once attracted are leaving, while new markets do not find an authentic experience calibrated to their preferences. This identity crisis is particularly evident in Dubai's entertainment offerings. The city invested heavily in attractions like the Dubai Opera, which primarily showcased Western classical music and theater. Now, these venues struggle to attract audiences from new visitor demographics with different cultural preferences. Similarly, nightlife venues designed around Western music and alcohol consumption face declining patronage as visitor demographics shift. Dubai now faces an existential question that goes to the heart of its tourism crisis. What is Dubai if not the Western luxury playground it spent decades becoming? The answer will determine whether Dubai can reinvent itself for a post-Western tourism future, or whether the current crisis represents the beginning of a permanent decline. Despite all these troubling indicators, Dubai's tourism authority continues to project confidence, pointing to overall visitor numbers that appear relatively stable. Official statements emphasize market diversification and evolving tourism profiles, rather than acknowledging the fundamental crisis unfolding. Press releases highlight record-breaking visitor arrivals while conveniently omitting critical revenue data. But here is what Dubai's tourism officials are not telling you. The numbers that really matter show a tourism economy in free fall. While raw visitor counts might remain relatively stable, the financial metrics that actually determine economic health tell a completely different story. Let us look at what is really happening behind those headline figures. Confidential industry reports show that despite maintaining overall visitor numbers, tourism revenue has dropped by approximately 30%, as higher-spending Western visitors are replaced by lower-spending tourists from other regions. Hotel occupancy might look healthy at around 75%, but revenue per available room, the metric that actually matters for profitability, has collapsed by nearly 40% in luxury properties. Retail sales at Dubai's luxury malls present perhaps the starkest reality check. While foot traffic has increased at shopping destinations like Dubai Mall and Mall of the Emirates, average transaction values have plummeted. Luxury retailers report sales declines of 25 to 45% despite serving more customers. The economic disconnect could not be clearer. More visitors spending substantially less money. This spending gap creates brutal mathematics for Dubai's tourism sector. Industry analysts estimate Dubai needs approximately 3 Asian budget travelers to generate the same revenue as one Western luxury tourist. This substitution ratio makes Dubai's diversification strategy economically unsustainable, as the infrastructure costs of serving 3 times as many visitors quickly erode already declining margins. The financial pressure is becoming impossible to hide. Major hotel groups operating in Dubai report profit declines of 30 to 50% despite maintaining occupancy. Restaurant groups are closing underperforming locations or converting fine dining establishments to more casual concepts. Luxury retailers are renegotiating mall leases or reducing floor space as sales per square foot collapse. Even Dubai's iconic attractions are feeling the pinch. Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building and a must-visit tourist destination, has been forced to introduce lower-priced access options as visitors increasingly balk at premium observation deck prices. Desert safari companies that once operated exclusively high-end experiences now offer budget options at 1/3 the price to attract volume business. The revenue crisis extends to Dubai's meetings and convention sector, once a reliable source of high-spending Western business travelers. Conference organizers report Western attendance down 40 to 60% at major events, with delegate spending following a similar downward trajectory. Corporate events that once reliably filled Dubai's luxury hotels with expense account travelers are moving to more affordable destinations. Dubai's tourism success is increasingly revealed as an illusion built on misleading statistics that hide a revenue crisis of staggering proportions. By focusing on arrival numbers rather than spending patterns, Dubai's tourism authority creates a false narrative of stability, while the economic foundations of the industry crumble. The math is simply unsustainable. Dubai built a tourism infrastructure that requires high-spending visitors to maintain profitability. No amount of market diversification can overcome the fundamental economic reality that Dubai needs Western luxury travelers to make its tourism model work. If you are contemplating a Dubai vacation, You might assume these market shifts do not affect your personal experience. After all, you are still paying premium prices for what Dubai promises will be a luxury experience. Unfortunately, that assumption could not be further from reality. Dubai's Western tourism collapse is fundamentally altering the experience for every visitor, especially those from Western countries who expect the luxury Dubai once reliably delivered. Service quality is declining precipitously as hotels and restaurants cut costs to cope with revenue shortfalls. Properties that once maintained staff-to-guest ratios of 3-to-1 now operate with half as many employees. This reduction directly impacts everything from room service wait times to housekeeping thoroughness. One frequent Dubai visitor told me that 5 years ago, their room was serviced twice daily without asking. Now they have to call repeatedly just to get fresh towels. That drop in attention is a clear sign of a wider service decline. Attractions that once offered exclusive experiences are now overcrowded with budget tourists, and that fundamentally changes the visitor experience. The observation deck at Burj Khalifa, once a relatively serene place where visitors could enjoy unimpeded views, now routinely reaches capacity with long lines and crowded viewing platforms. Visitor flow and comfort have been sacrificed for volume. Desert safaris that once limited vehicles to create a sense of wilderness solitude now operate in large convoys to maximize efficiency and revenue. Even Dubai's famous beaches, once carefully managed to maintain exclusivity, now struggle with overcrowding during peak periods. Beach clubs that previously enforced strict capacity limits now pack in guests to compensate for lower per-visitor spending. Western tourists increasingly report feeling like second-class visitors in a destination that once catered to their every need. Hotels that built service models around Western expectations now prioritize the preferences of their volume customers from other regions. Restaurant menus that once featured extensive Western options now focus on cuisines preferred by Asian and Russian visitors. Entertainment programming increasingly reflects the tastes of Dubai's new primary markets rather than Western preferences. The economic disconnect creates an impossible situation. Western visitors continue paying Western luxury prices for an increasingly budget-oriented experience as Dubai chases quantity over quality. You are effectively subsidizing the experience of lower-spending visitors while receiving diminished service and value yourself. That value erosion appears in countless small ways that collectively transform the Dubai experience. Complimentary airport transfers, once standard for luxury hotel guests, have been eliminated at many properties. Welcome amenities that once included premium champagne now feature sparkling wine, or have disappeared entirely. Restaurant portions have shrunk while prices have increased. Spas have reduced treatment times while maintaining or raising rates. The Dubai you thought you were visiting, the ultra-luxury playground built specifically for Western travelers, no longer exists. The new Dubai is a mass tourism destination struggling to balance volume and quality, and it is not designed with your preferences or expectations in mind. For Western travelers who remember Dubai's glory days, the current reality can be jarring. The exclusive experiences, impeccable service, and attention to detail that once defined Dubai tourism have largely disappeared, replaced by a volume-driven approach that prioritizes quantity over quality.